You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
But there was a small topic of conversation before the show that just led to an argument that I didn't expect. I didn't expect Alan to tear his shirt in half a la Hulk Hogan. I mean, he's in Las Vegas, and I could hear him do it from here. And he was threatening me. It was a really, really strong argument about what jersey LeBron should wear, as he posted on Instagram, whether it should be 6 or 23. Alan, have you calmed down since before the show?
It actually was because you had called me right in the middle of a good hand on the blackjack table.
Oh, I see.
You distracted me.
21. That's why you're going with 23, because the dealer you were hoping was going to bust.
I wanted the dealer to bust. I wasn't paying attention. I should have split. I didn't. You cost me money. And when anybody costs me money, I get mad.
Yeah, you come and collect. That's what you do. You're like Debo. You get on the little bike and you come and take my chain. Something like that. So you're going with 23. You think LeBron should wear 23? Why is that?
Yeah, well, six represents the years in Miami and like the getaway, the excursion. I don't know what you want to call it anymore. Like it's this bizarre thing, like a guy and a girl have been dating for a long time, and then the guy kind of like they have their break, and the guy like has a little fling and he enjoys it. He goes off to Europe and lives there for a few years, has some crazy fling, then comes back to the girl, then he gets married. And so the years that LeBron spent having his fling in South Beach, that has to stay there. That's what 6 represents. 23 is who he was when he started with Cleveland. 23 is who he should be when he ends with Cleveland, because it's going to look very weird when they retire his jersey to put what do you do? Like a slash, like 23/6.
See, I think that's
you put
brilliant.
2 different jerseys up. It's just bizarre.
No, that's brilliant. Now, here's the counter argument to what you just said, which is rubbish. The 23 is, first of all, it's Michael Jordan's number, right? Do we need more LeBron, Michael Jordan random comparisons? Like there'll be people today saying Michael Jordan would have never worn 23. If LeBron.
Wait. Jordan came back wearing 45, but then he went back to 23.
Yeah, but that didn't work out. Not to play games with you.
No, very well done.
Yeah, he came back with that, and then he eventually switched to 23 again. LeBron wore 23 in Cleveland, then he went to Miami and took on the number 6. To me, the 6th can be a symbol of growth and change and what LeBron went through. The fact that he decided to leave Cleveland in the first place, then he became who he is now. Like a guy who's clearly not worried about what other people think about him anymore. A guy who also decided, hey, I'm going to do what makes me happy. Goes back to Cleveland with that fresh start, with that new number as the new LeBron James. As far as the hanging of the jersey and everything, Alan, it's easy. You take your kid to the game. They put it up in the rafters, and it says 23 and 6, and your kid says, hey, Dad, why does that jersey number say both 23 and 6? I don't know why my kid talks like Mickey Mouse, but either way, why does it say 23?
Or Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and 6? And you say, son, that represents what happened with LeBron. He left us in shambles. Cleveland collapsed into the earth. And then he came back to save us as number 6. So the whole narrative is captured in that moment. It's perfect. It has to be 6.
That's because you love comic books. That's the whole superhero thing to you. He returns as 6. We need some dramatic music in the background when we do that, right? He left as 23, a broken man, beaten, hated by his family, but returned as 6.
What, are they going to put a charred, burnt jersey up? I mean, you can't put the burnt jersey up. You got to put the new, clean, crispy one up there.
Look, I'm just telling you. See, you and I have different perspective. My perspective is that Miami turned out to be, this torrid fling that he had in between a relationship that he really, that was more of a grounding relationship. It was his, it was his late 20s. It was his chance to go out and do what you do when you're in your late 20s and you're single. And then he went. Once he turned 30, he's like, all right, I need to settle down now. And I know the right place to settle down. I got the right girl, and he just goes back to Cleveland. And so it's go back to being 23. And you liked me as 23. This is who I am, and that's who he should be. And by the way, the 6, you know what that represented, right?
No. What did it represent?
How many titles he wanted to win, because it's one more than Kobe.
Really? No, that can't be true. I mean, it's also even with Michael Jordan's thing. I mean, Kobe put the 24 up to be one more than Jordan. Really? It was to win one more than Kobe?
It's because Kobe has 5 and he wanted 6.
Well, then I take it back, because that's a lame reason to wear 6 in the first place. Ray in Brooklyn. Ray, you're on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
What's up, Ray?
Yeah, I really don't know why you guys are even having this conversation about 23 or 6, because LeBron made up his number that he didn't want to be 23 before he even left Cleveland, before he decided to go to Miami. As a matter of fact, it was his idea to retire to number 23 from the NBA altogether.
What a point. What a point that Ray raises. Now, that may have been softening the blow for when he eventually left, but it is a very pertinent topic to bring up, that this was in the making before he actually
because 23 should be widely retired, like Gretzky's 99 in the NHL. You mean like 42 in baseball? Like nobody should wear 23 ever again?
Well, and that he was changing his number anyway. He'd already put in the.
If all that's true, and he wanted to honor Michael Jordan, then what's with today's Instagram post?
6 for 23. Today's Instagram post is, hey, which jersey should I wear?
All right, well, so if he was already saying, you know what, nobody should wear 23, I don't want to wear 23 anymore, then why is he now reconsidering wearing it?
Because he's going back to Cleveland where he did wear it. There's probably the heartstrings tugging him. There's some part of him
No,
that's
but
saying,
the point Ray was making, which sounded like a good point, he would have made a pretty good, attorney, is that, well, he already decided he didn't want to wear 23 anymore.
That's Ray's
whether
point,
he would
not
have been
LeBron's
in Cleveland or
internal
not.
monologue.
Well, that's fine, but if he was saying before he even left Cleveland that he didn't want to wear 23 anymore, why is he reopening 23?
Because he has the nostalgia pulling at him. Yeah, it's still an option, but I think he should move on.
So then it's not off the table, which means whatever you're thinking about, like some higher reason why he didn't want to wear it, that doesn't exist.
It's the next phase of his life.
6 represented his little fling. It's over. He's coming back, and 23 should be the number he wears.
I feel like fling is not doing it enough justice. You know what? Like, to me, what the Miami Heat was a great television series that ended before it had a chance to jump the shark. You know, like we were all captivated by it, and then it just went off the air when LeBron wrote that note before they could.
It's like Lost.
Yes,
everybody wanted to see more, but Lost said no, we're done.
It was probably the right time for that to happen. But I don't like disrespecting it as some sort of fling because let's put it this way.
Well, Robin, have you ever had a really good fling?
No, I've loved my wife since the first second I ever saw her, and no one else has ever been anywhere near that realm. No one has made me choose between 6 and 23.
Well, you're Derek Jeter.
Yeah.
You didn't need to look anywhere else.
What I'm saying with Miami, though, Alan, is, like, for instance, they went to 4 consecutive finals. I've never seen that in my life, in the recollection years. I know it happened after I was born in the late 80s. And as far as winning 27 games in a row, only one team has won more, and I never saw that either. So I don't like to just totally disregard that like it was like some little blip on the radar.
I'm not disregarding it. I'm just saying for him and his career, that was like a little break off. He just went and did this for a while. It was, it was great. It was epic, and now it's like he's settling back in.
But he left for Miami, if that was the cocoon he went into, and he emerged as 6. He left in 23.
This is a superhero thing for you.
6.
I'm telling you, Candelmo's got to give us some like real superhero music in the background.
It's just narrative. It doesn't have to be superhero. You can choose whatever you like. I just like the growth
LeBron James
narrative attached to it.
As 6.
It is funny though, like it does feel like he has like saved an entire region, no?
It does.
Like all of a sudden
Northeast Ohio has been pulled out of the depths. Single-handedly.
Stephen Forrest Hills, you're on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Hey, what's up? I just want to weigh in on that 6 or 23 LeBron decision. I think that from a financial standpoint, there's no reason why he would ever wear 23 because that was the old jersey. So the NBA wants him to have number 6. He wants more jerseys to be sold. But I think by putting it out there on Instagram or whatever he put it out there on, it's basically putting the fans to say it, and then he's going to say, yeah, the fans wanted number 6 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And honestly, besides that whole decision that LeBron did that was, I thought, horrendous a couple of years back, ever since then, I think the way he's conducted himself and the player that he is and everything, you really can't help but being a fan for him. And I've hated the Heat. I don't want them to be successful, but I do want LeBron to be successful.
Steve, it does feel like a face turn, to borrow a wrestling analogy. You know, he went to the NWO as Hulk Hogan and then came back and he's wearing the Hulkamania gear. Again, that's what happened. Maybe he changed in a phone booth, Alan, to keep the superhero theme going on.
Keep that going.
But by the way, where does Superman change now? Does he change in a Wi-Fi hotspot? Because there's not exact phone booths are basically public bathrooms now.
That's all it's going to be now. It's like you got to run into a bathroom stall and do that crazy thing. Because that'd be a really funny parody scene where he has to find a phone booth and he's running around New York and he's like, I can't find the phone booth. I'd love to help you, but I can't find a phone booth. It'd be hilarious. But when it comes to the jersey thing, it could also turn into this, would be really interesting. Let's just say, hypothetically, LeBron finishes his career in Cleveland. They come close, but they don't win any championships.
Okay.
So now you have this fun thing, which LeBron did you like better, the 23 LeBron or the 6 LeBron? Who's your LeBron? Which LeBron is yours? I mean, Kobe had 2 numbers with the Lakers, and it's like, the 8 Kobe was the one that was sort of like selfish and, into his own thing and fought a lot with Shaq, and then the 24 Kobe was more the team guy about championships and winning and all that other stuff. So you could kind of have fun with that too, but I just think you want consistency and, your identity, and his identity in Cleveland was wearing that number 23.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Rex has been overexposed during his time with the Jets. If you think about it, he may be the only coach in professional sports who's the star of his team. Because Rex is he's the star of his team. If you're if you're at the movies and you see the posters for coming attractions and you think of all...
He's the biggest name?
Yeah, you think of all professional sports teams, I think he's the only one where he's the guy on the marquee. Even with Phil Jackson with the Knicks, it would be a split between Phil and Carmelo, of course. Mm-hmm. And you go across all teams. I don't know if you can think of another coach who's at the top of that. Now, Rex became overexposed because of the talk when he first burst on the scene. They had gone from Eric Mangini, a tight-lipped, guy who came under Bill Belichick, to Rex, who was brash and came out the gate saying we're going to win Super Bowls and all that. Now, all of a sudden, we got a little bit of a different version of Rex, and he's adjusted to the backlash, I'm sure, and I think he's adjusted to the reality of the situation. The Jets no longer a team that is built to contend for the Super Bowl right now, though last year was a very good year for them, relatively speaking, and you like a lot of the young pieces they have. But it's just funny to see the disparity in his quotes now, because today Rex said 8-8 would be a disappointment for us. He tells the New York Daily News 8-8 would be a disappointment. So Rex goes from saying, you know what, we're going to win the Super Bowl, to we'll probably be better than okay. That's basically where he's at now.
Oh, I mean, let's not take just the 8-8 part out of context. He also said, that this team's on the cusp of doing special things. So he wasn't absent of hyperbole. Confident will be a playoff team is more along the lines of what you're saying. It's a lot more of a watered down version of what Rex usually does, but the other part of the quote later in the story that really caught me and really seems more like vintage Rex is him saying, I can't wait to snap this thing off for real because I feel this is going to be that team that I've been looking for. And that to me is like, well, wait a minute. You've been talking Super Bowl. You've been talking about, playing, for the big ring and everything. And this is the team you've been looking for, because it doesn't resemble the Super Bowl team. But I'm not down on it. I love the rally cry that he creates and the aggressiveness of his passion for his team each year. But to say that this is the team he's been looking for, I think it's still probably a step or two away from being that team, at least me as a Jets fan has been looking for.
I like to look at things and actually think about them, and look
Why
at
would
them
you
with
do that?
Perspective. I mean, yeah, how dare I? And I honestly believe that a lot of the reaction, the desire to get Rex out of here, was brought about because of an overreaction to how big a persona he became rather than the facts. Because
Right.
if you look at Rex Ryan's tenure with the Jets, it's pretty good. I mean, he had those first 2 years, the AFC Championship games. There was the whole Tebow ordeal and a bit of a lull in between. And then last year was a pretty satisfactory result given all of the circumstances. I defy anyone to tell me he's not a good coach. Now, where exactly you rank him, that's up for debate. But are you telling me you can definitively say he's not one of the top, let's say, third coaches in the NFL, the top 10 or so coaches, or at least the top half? Can you definitively tell me that that's not the case?
No, it's not at all. And look at the respect he gets from around the league from other coaches. I think that says a lot. And I also, to me, you judge a coach not only on the team's wins and losses because personnel has a great command of your wins and losses. You judge a coach on how his players react to him. And you have to really search to find a player that has a problem with Rex Ryan. They love playing for him. They get fired up. Nothing is said more about it than at the end of the season, that scene in the locker room that we saw when Idzik told the players that Rex is coming back. Now, this is a team that finished the season 8-8. They weren't going to the playoffs, and their head coach is staying. And the reaction was as if they were just told, hey, you got an extra wild card bid to the playoffs. They reacted with it was sincere and it was spontaneous, which to me tells me there is a legitimate love and respect for him as a head coach. It starts there, if you ask me. Now, of course, you also have to have some organization, which we see he does, and then he has to have talent, which is getting a lot better. What was their biggest issue of the past 2 seasons? The lack of skill position players.
Yeah, you wouldn't want a New York Jet on your fantasy team, period.
Well, not on defense you would, but definitely not on
defense.
offense.
Individual New York Jet.
But not on offense. But the issue, of course, to me still remains the most important position on the field, which drives me crazy. But quarterback still is a major question mark, and I think that's an issue. But they are much better at running back with Chris Johnson. Much better. They are better at wide receiver because of Decker, and of course they get deeper now because you hope Curley and maybe even I don't have a lot of faith in Stephen Hill, but maybe David Nelson. But you have something there at wide receiver. So at least on offense, they have more talent than they did last year, more legitimate talent. Their defense is getting a year older and experienced and a little bit better, and they were very good last year defensively. So there's hope there. But is it Super Bowl hope? No. But you see the pieces and the kind of coming together towards it, and one thing, you have a coach that the players love to play for. Now all you can do is hope no one screws it up.
The other knock about Rex I don't understand is the whole thing of, well, he's a defensive coach. I mean, if you have Rex, you're going to have a good defense. But
yeah.
Wait a second, stop there. If you have Rex, you're going to have a good defense. Like, that's a negative. You never hear the opposite said about somebody like Sean Payton. I realize he has a Super Bowl, so that grants him some immunity and everything. But you never hear Sean Payton is an offensive genius, but you don't know about the defensive side. You have to go hire Rex Ryan's brother in order to get that shored up. Like, Why is it such a bad thing that Rex Ryan is so good at defense?
Well, because the game is all about offense now. I mean, I had this debate with Don LaGreca when he said that.
Well, ask the Seahawks that.
Well, yeah, I guess it's a fair point, but it's their argument has always been like Don's argument to me is, well, the game is going a different way, and teams that are great defensive teams can't win championships. Obviously, Seattle proves that incorrect, but that has been the thing with the league the last couple of years. It's all about putting up huge numbers and electrifying your crowd with great offense and outscoring the other team. This is old school. Playing, where your defense is your strength. The Ravens were like that, probably the last team before the Seahawks came along to be that team that really their defense was the star, and the offense sort of just was good enough to get by. I think Rex is trying to prove that that's not true. And in a division where you still have Tom Brady, you have to have a good defensive team or you're not going to survive, and it's a lot easier to build a defense, to me, and a lot cheaper than it is to build an electrifying offense. It takes, I think, longer to do that with offense, and of course you need the most important piece, which is a great quarterback. There aren't many of them in this league, as many teams can tell you.
Well, people like to go with cliches and everything. Defense wins championships, or the game is changing. To me, it's all a bunch of garbage. Really, what the truth is that you need to be good at both. If you want to win a title, you need to, in the NBA,
I think you have to be great at one and competent at the other, Robin. That's what I think.
Well, in the NBA, you need to be top 10. It's been statistically shown recently you need to be top 10 at both. I agree in the NFL to a certain degree, because you could use the Seahawks as an example. They were awesome at defense and solid offensively. Right. The Jets just didn't have the personnel to be very good offensively. The quarterback is less of a question mark to me this year because you have two options. Geno Smith, I would give him like an NA, incomplete for what's gone on so far. We don't know. Could he be the answer? I say yes. Is he the answer? I say a definitive we don't know. You can't, well, definitive and you don't know is, I guess, a bit of an oxymoron. But with Geno, if he winds up being a backup on his salary, that's okay. If he winds up being a starter, it's a home run. In the meantime, you have Michael Vick there, who, whatever you want to say about him, is far from a scrub. It's not like you're putting some bum in if you're putting Vic. So you have the possibility that Geno pans out at that position. If not, you have a pretty good guy to step in there and man the ship right away.
Yeah, and Vic, to me, the people don't believe me, but I'm telling you, from what I know about Vic and his decision to come to New York, never mind the money and everything else, I think he's bought into the idea of he's at a point in his career. He does want to compete. He does want to be a starter. But I also think there's something that he wants to do with Geno Smith. People think it's going to be a competition and they're going for it and all that. I really think Vic is going to be great for Geno because obviously he has the experience with Morningweg in that offense, but I also think there's parts of Vic's game that Geno showed last year. He doesn't have a lot of experience in, but there is a skill set there that Geno could learn from Vic and get better in being a mobile quarterback as well as having that great arm. And I think if they work together in meetings and obviously watching film and having that kind of a mentor, I think could be great for Geno. Everybody knows I've been down on Geno since they drafted him. I never really felt like he had the stuff to be a starter and a winner in this league. He's got talent, but I'm talking about the other part of it, the intangibles and the character to be a great quarterback and to deal with adversity. But with the right kind of mentor, and I think Vic might be that guy, this could be the opportunity for Geno, and I'm really going to watch that closely.
Thanks for listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Be sure to listen weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Rich, I'd imagine 8-8 would be particularly disappointing for Rex Ryan because if the Jets go 8-8, he's probably not the coach next year, no?
Well, it would be disappointing because, they were 8-8 last year, and that would represent no progress at all, of course. And it could affect his job status. I think the arrow has to be pointing up at the end of the year. And whether that's, I would think it probably means playoffs because it would be 4 straight years without a playoff berth, which is really an eternity in professional sports. So in all likelihood, I would have to agree with you. It probably would mean a new coach.
Rich, going into training camp, I think most franchises, not some because they have superstars at this position, but most will look at quarterback as the most important position to see development there. For the Jets, of course, with Geno, I would say that's obvious. But is it as important to see development at the cornerback position, knowing that it was an issue last year that they're going to need someone, whether it's the rookie prior or someone, to step up and fill the big hole there?
In fact, I'm going to use a Rex Ryan quote here, if just for a second. He said the two positions where you can win or lose a game the fastest are corner and quarterback. And those happen to be, in my opinion, and you just said the same thing, Alan, just the two biggest questions. They need to see big-time development from Geno Smith and D. Milner. It's just that simple, really, because Geno, showed, his arrow was pointing up at the end of last year, but, it was only really 3 games that he played well against some suspect competition. Can he maintain that? The Jets think he can. D. Milner, he's the number 1 corner. This is the first time since 2006 that the Jets don't have a Rivas or a Cromartie, in the defensive backfield. So Milner's the guy, and if he is not playing to the level of number 1 corner, they have a big-time problem on defense.
Hey, Rich, are the Jets the only team that seems to have a perpetual quarterback controversy? Do you get tired of that every single summer you go in? Like, is it Tebow or Sanchez? Is it Geno or Sanchez? Is it Vic or Geno? I feel like it's an annual thing, a rite of passage.
But you know me, Robin. We love this stuff. This is what drives traffic on the website and sells newspapers. Quarterback controversies are good for business. And do I think they have one right now? Not right now, because I think Geno Smith is going to be the opening day starter. I think if you ask anyone on the team, they'll tell you the same thing. But if he plays poorly in the preseason, if he goes out in the first preseason game and has a game like he did against the Giants last preseason, where he threw 3 picks, and Michael Vick looks pretty good, then we have a quarterback controversy. So really, it's Geno's. The ball is in his court, and if he does a competent job this summer, he'll be the quarterback. But it just has to happen. So we'll see.
Aside from the pressure of competition, Rich, can Michael Vick be good for Geno Smith?
Yeah, I do think he will be good. I actually like the move. When I know some people were down on them signing Michael Vick, I like the move, and it all falls on Michael and how good he can make Geno be. If he buys into the mentor role, which he has so far, and he can play that elder statesman, then I think it could do wonders for Geno Smith, just to have another set of eyes in the room with considerable experience. Now, they brought in David Garrard last year, halfway through the year. I really didn't see the wisdom in that move at that particular time. So he helped a little bit, I think, David Garrard. But David was never really going to see the field, hadn't seen the field in a couple of years. Michael Vick played last year and was their starter until he lost it because of injury in Philly. So I think if Vick is into it, and he seems to be, I think it will be a help for Geno Smith.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Before we get into something, Chris, that both Alan and I disagree with you on, I need your help. I say 6 for LeBron. He says 23. What say you?
It's tough. I mean, I feel like why keep changing your number? So stay number 6. For the the reasons he gave for going to number 6 weren't reasons based in Cleveland. It was supposedly just, out of respect for Michael Jordan and all that. But if he goes to 23, I can understand the whole coming back home, restarting what we had done, unfinished business, the whole 9 yards. So I'm really, there's not many things I don't have an opinion on when it comes to basketball. But this one, I really don't care. I can see the argument for either way.
Yeah, I don't care either, but Robin is just so strong about it that I just needed to counter him.
Chris.
I mean, really, I don't care if he wears 0. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but, it's one of those things that you just, you feel like, I just feel like poking the bear, so that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I don't understand, though, keep changing your number,
Yeah, but
well, you might keep changing your number if the wrong people are calling or texting you.
That's right. Right, but Chris, the bigger question about Cleveland, of course, what they will be in the Eastern Conference, but what will they have Wiggins or will they have Kevin Love on the roster when the season starts? I'm of the opinion, I've been watching him all week here in Summer League. There's no way you trade this kid. No way. There's too much upside for him. You agree or disagree?
I disagree. Look, I'm with you. I like the potential. I mean, he's very raw. He's not lighting Summer League up. What's he shooting, about 38%?
Yeah, but, that's all relative.
Yeah, but he's very, his jumper needs a lot of work. His ball handling needs a lot of work. But beyond that, I think he will be a great player. But if I'm Cleveland, I'm in a win-now mode. LeBron James probably has 4 years roughly left as a top 1 or 2 player in the league. I want to maximize those years. Now, if I didn't have Kyrie Irving, I might not want to trade Wiggins. But I've got Kyrie. See, even if Wiggins becomes a legitimate star, I've already got 2 stars on the perimeter. I mean, Kyrie is great, and he's only going to get better learning from LeBron, becoming more professional, so on and so forth. So I want my 3rd star to be a big man. I've got 2 great perimeter guys. I want a big. I need to rebound the basketball. More than that, I need to stretch the floor, and that's what Kevin Love does. They're starting 5 right now: Wiggins, Kyrie, LeBron, Anderson Varejao, and Tristan Thompson. There's not a shooter in that lineup. Okay, so if I put Kevin Love there, all of a sudden I've got a stretch 4. Now the floor is more open for LeBron and Kyrie to penetrate and do their thing and kick the ball out. But beyond that, I've got a stretch 4 who can rebound with anybody in the league, and he's a great passer, 4.5 assists last year. Great outlet passer for LeBron on the break. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, and it's not a slight on Wiggins because I'm with you in that. I think he's going to be great. But how many top perimeter players can I have on my team? let me get a big like Love.
Robin Lundberg, Alan Hahn talking to Chris Broussard here on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. Now, Chris, I totally see your reasoning. My concern wouldn't be any of the offensive issues you mentioned. It would be a lack of perimeter athleticism because they have good perimeter players, but not necessarily perimeter athleticism. And to me, this is not one-to-one Wiggins and Love, because Wiggins could potentially fill some roles for you. It could be a fast break running mate for LeBron, perhaps a perimeter defender, and he does those things on the cheap, not taking up much salary cap space, and very young. And also, I don't see, maybe you'll tell me why I'm wrong, I don't see why I have to give the Wolves Wiggins if I am the Cavaliers, because I don't think they're exactly negotiating from a position of strength, given that Love is out the door. Why wouldn't an offer centered around Anthony Bennett, Dion Waiters, and 2 or 3 first-round picks be about as good as what they're going to get from other teams?
I don't think it'll be as good as what they can get from Golden State. If I'm Minnesota and I can get Wiggins, that trumps all. That trumps Klay Thompson and David Lee and all those guys. But if I can't get Wiggins, then I like, even if the Warriors don't give me Klay Thompson, I like David Lee, Harrison Barnes, and a first-round draft pick better than I like what Cleveland could give me. I don't know about Anthony Bennett. I mean, yeah, he looks better in summer league, but who knows where he's going to be. So that's how I would look at it. And look, this is the thing I think a lot of people are missing. They're talking about Wiggins is young and this and that. We're young anyway. Kevin Love is 25 years old. Kyrie Irving is 22. Let's face it, Andrew Wiggins is going to be a role player in Cleveland regardless of how good he is, because he's not going to usurp LeBron, obviously, and he's not going to usurp Kyrie Irving. So he has to be a role player. I see him right now as a slasher. I mean, he's attacking the rim with abandon in summer league, okay? Not much of a jump shooter. He's a slasher. Next year, I mean, he could play like Larry Hughes played next to LeBron. Now, I know he'll get better than that, but that's not what I want next to LeBron James. I want a guy that can shoot. As far as perimeter athleticism, obviously LeBron's athletic as anyone. Kyrie has athleticism. And I'm not sure who my 2-guard would be in the starting lineup, but I'll figure that out. Look, Kevin Martin could be a part of this deal, too. You know, and he's a guy that can shoot the basketball and do some things offensively as well.
Now, you and I are going to argue with this forever because, you know, and I like Kevin Love personally too much to disparage him on the air. But, you know, who's he going to guard? If he's out in the corner, how's he going to rebound? There's a lot of things that I can get into with why I don't think it fits. And also the fact that, he is 25, but he's played a lot. He is susceptible to injury. He's a small big. He has short arms. He's not a true big that's somebody that can really, you know, when you're going up against the Bulls, when you're going up against the Spurs, you know, it's a mismatch. So I think there are issues there that I think you'd be overspending. Plus the fact you'd have 3 guys that you're going to be paying max for, which is a lot. To me, it just doesn't make sense. And then you're going to give up the number 1 pick or your number 1 pick. That just, again, it doesn't make sense in my opinion. But I have a better question for you, Chris, because, you know, we're going to debate this, I think, for years to come. But right now, looking at the East, you say the Cavs, just even before getting Kevin Love, they should be a playoff team. When you look at the 8 teams that made the playoffs last year, one of those teams has to drop out for the Cavs to be a playoff team. Who is the team that you see in those top 8 from last season that got worse or potentially could fall out of the playoffs?
Well, I would say, I mean, the Cavs are definitely a playoff team. I think Chicago, Cleveland are right at the top. You bring up a good point. If you force me to pick a team, I'll throw out Atlanta or Charlotte, even though I think Charlotte got better with Lance Stevenson. Atlanta's going to get better because they're going to have Al Horford, who they didn't have last year. But I think there are probably 6 or 7 definites in the East. And this was where the Knicks kind of come into it. Then the question is who's going to fill out the playoff count. So you got Chicago, Cleveland, Indiana, Brooklyn, Toronto, Washington at 6 definitely. I think I'm missing somebody. But those are 6 teams that I definitely think will make the playoffs. And then you've got Charlotte, New York, Miami. Miami's definitely going to make it. So that's 7, in my opinion, 7 teams that are definite. And then you've got the Knicks, the Hawks, Charlotte, and maybe Detroit. I think Stan Van Gundy's a very good coach, and they have some talent. Those 4 teams have to battle for that 8th spot. I look at the Knicks. I think the triangle is great for Carmelo. I think that they've improved with the moves they've made. But I can't sit here and guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs just because I think the East has gotten a lot better.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Alan and I were just discussing, Andrew, what exactly the Yankees mean, what their brand identity is right now. So I'll ask you that very question based on what you wrote.
Well, it's going into in a state of transition. I mean, you look at it, after the next 68 games, Derek Jeter's career is going to be over. Over the next 6 weeks, we're going to find out if Masahiro Tanaka is going to be able to pitch or if he's going to need Tommy John surgery, which would almost definitely keep him out of next year. So you're talking about him returning in 2016. When you look at this club and why you want to watch them in the second half, I think there's about three guys you want to watch. Jeter, Tanaka if he comes back, and Dellin Betances, who's healthy at this point. So they're in a state of transition, no core 4 after this year. And, the run that they've been on over this last 20 years, it's unbelievable. So, I mean, you can't expect that to go on forever. And so it definitely is going to be a transitional period for the Yankees starting next year.
Andrew, you know what? I want to expect this to go on forever. Right? I can't help it because when I watched Jeter at the All-Star game, I felt old, and I don't want to feel old. And that's what the Yankees are making me do. They make me feel old because if Jeter's old, then that means I'm old. So what I'm asking you is the thing that gets me more excited about paying attention is not necessarily, the great bullpen or, watching Jeter say farewell, 65 more times so I could feel old, but more or less what they're going to do because that's what the Yankees always did. The Yankees always did something that made a dramatic change or made an announcement like, yeah, you're still going to have to deal with us. And the trade deadline's coming up. What are they going to do to get me to keep watching aside from nostalgia?
Well, in terms of big names, I mean, the guy who I pointed to is Cliff Lee because of their financial might. He's coming off an injury. He's going to pitch on Monday. He could have 2 more starts before the trade deadline. I mean, I don't know if that gets you excited, but he's a guy who you add him to that starting staff. Tanaka comes back. Pineda comes back. Shane Green looks like he might be a keeper in the starting rotation. And then you have Hiroki Kuroda. And maybe this team can make some noise in the second half. But, they did spend $500 million in the offseason, trying to make themselves not only competitive but very interesting. And so, thus far, besides Tanaka, and Ellsbury's been pretty good, but McCann and Beltran, those are the 2 guys who really need to step up in the second half, and the Yankees are going to have a chance. But in terms of having that core 4, I mean, look at it. I mean, they had 2 Hall of Famers and 2 guys who will probably end up in Monument Park with Andy Pettitte and Jorge Posada. So, Jeter, Mo, and then you add in Bernie. I mean, those 5 guys, that is just so rare. In our lifetime, there's a pretty good chance you'll never see, a fivesome like that, come together like they did for so many years.
Andrew, I know that Brian Cashman told you he needs to reinforce the pitching on the team. Sometimes I get a little sick and tired of hearing about pitching, not because it's not greatly important. We all know it is. But I wonder if it's emphasized so much to the point where it becomes overrated because you need it to win the World Series. You can't argue that. But in order to get to the playoffs, you have to hit and you have to score runs. And the Yankees' rotation has been decimated by injury. I'm not saying they don't need to improve it, but I don't care who they add to the rotation. If they don't get better offensively, they're not going to be playing in the fall.
That's true. And, Brian didn't use this term, but he uses it. He has used it in the past. I think with their offense, they think there's going to be a market correction in that McCann's going to hit better than he did. And you saw it the final week of the first half where he hit 360 for that last week. Carlos Beltran, if he's healthy, should give him more than he did in the first half. They may call a kid by the name of Rob Refsnyder. He's playing the outfield right now. He's at about 320, 330 between AA and AAA. He could help the offense. But you look at this rotation, I think that they pitched well. They've actually pitched okay. They haven't gotten length, but they pitched okay and gotten to that great bullpen. But I had a top Yankee official say to me the other day, if we had only one injury, he said, instead of 4 out of 5 guys to our starting rotation, where do you think we'd be? And you think about it, they'd be either in first or probably a game or 2 back. So I think they need the reinforcements in their starting staff, because I don't think, you can't throw Chase Whitley out there. Kuroda's bound to maybe get hurt. You still don't know what you have in Shane Green. David Phelps is a 4 or 5 type guy. So they need starting pitching, to me, if they're going to have a chance. And even if they do make a deal, they might not have a chance.
Michael Pineda, you mentioned we keep waiting for better news on when he can return. Are you basically still thinking it's a late August kind of addition for him if he does make that return?
Yeah, if. I mean, it's, he's Mr. Setback. Hasn't pitched since that Pine Tar game in late April. He's still off a bullpen right now, just throwing bullpens, hasn't pitched in games yet. He's a guy, you're talking about exciting for the future. I mean, and, you can't really count on Pineda yet because, we haven't seen him as a Yankee really for an extended period of time. But you throw Tanaka, if he can be healthy, Pineda, if he's healthy, this young kid Shane Green, and then, they have some young pitchers, moving up through the system. There might be some excitement. If things change quickly, I guess is the overall point. And, Pineda is a big part of their future and his ability to stay healthy and stay on the mound, because we saw, I mean, he was every, bit as good as Tanaka, if not better than Tanaka, to start the season.
Hey, Andrew, why weren't you in the Jeter commercial?
That's a good question. They asked me. I declined for journalistic reasons.
Oh, I see. You can't be seen tipping the Yankees cap. You have to be tipping your journalistic hat.
Exactly. Yeah. Would you guys like that commercial? I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, it's a fantastic commercial. It doesn't get any better.
You are listening to the best of the Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Ruocco Show on ESPNNewYork.com. Hear them weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.